The Galactic Empire, known throughout the stars for its diplomacy and strategic prowess, had built its dominion on a foundation of calculated negotiations and overwhelming might. For centuries, they expanded their reach through treaties and, when necessary, displays of power that left little room for resistance. In their eyes, the balance of diplomacy and force was the ultimate tool for maintaining order in the galaxy. Their fleets were vast, their technology advanced, and their reputation unchallenged. Every species they encountered had eventually bowed to the Empire's will, preferring the security of subjugation over the chaos of resistance. On the outer rim of human space, a small colony thrived on the planet Haven. It was a peaceful world, rich with resources and home to a few thousand settlers. The people of Haven lived simple lives, far removed from the militaristic heart of Earth. They cultivated the land, raised their families, and engaged in trade with nearby systems. The idea of war was as distant to them as the core worlds of the Empire. Children played in the fields under twin suns, and farmers tended to crops that would feed colonies light years away. Haven was a symbol of humanity's resilience and adaptability, a frontier where life had taken root in the vastness of space. The Empire, however, saw Haven differently. To them, it was a strategic outpost, a foothold that could either be used as a stepping stone for further expansion or a threat to be neutralized. The Empire's Council, in its cold deliberations, decided that humanity needed to be shown its place. A swift strike on Haven would send a clear message to Earth: submit, or face annihilation. The decision was made without hesitation, for in the Empire's long history, such tactics had always yielded the desired results. Empires were built on fear and respect, and the Empire was determined to ensure humanity learned both. The attack came without warning. Imperial ships emerged from hyperspace, their sleek, black hulls cutting through the void like daggers. Haven's primitive defense systems were no match for the Empire's advanced technology. Within moments, the skies above the colony were filled with fire as orbital bombardments rained down. Buildings crumbled, fields burned, and panic spread among the colonists. The people of Haven had never seen war, and now they were engulfed in it. The Empire's forces, efficient and merciless, targeted key infrastructure first: communication arrays, power grids, transportation hubs. All were destroyed in the initial salvo. Civilians scrambled for safety, but there was none to be found. Families huddled in basements as the ground shook beneath them, the distant screams of those less fortunate echoing in their ears. The attack was over in minutes, but the devastation was complete. Where there had once been a thriving colony, there was now only smoldering ruins and the lingering echoes of terror. The Empire had made its statement with brutal clarity: resistance was futile, and submission was the only path to survival. On Earth, the news of Haven's destruction spread like wildfire. It began as whispers, then as frantic transmissions from nearby colonies. When the full extent of the attack was revealed, there was a moment of collective shock. The images of burning fields and shattered homes played across every screen, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace. Grief gave way to anger, and anger to resolve. The human population, once content with their place in the galaxy, now demanded justice. The attack on Haven was not just an assault on a distant colony, it was an attack on humanity itself. Earth's leaders convened in emergency sessions, their faces grim as they reviewed the footage from Haven. There was no room for negotiation, no place for diplomacy. The Empire had shown its true colors, and humanity would respond in kind. The decision was unanimous and immediate. A message was sent out across the stars, rallying every available fleet, every soldier, every resource. This was no longer about protecting a distant colony, this was about survival. The Empire had declared war, and humanity would not back down. The human fleet commander, a veteran of countless battles, was given the responsibility of leading Earth's forces. There were no speeches, no declarations of war. The time for words had passed. Orders were given, ships were armed, and the engines of war began to turn. Humanity had learned many lessons from its long history, and chief among them was this: when threatened, strike back with everything you have. There would be no half measures, no hesitation. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and soon they would learn the true cost of their arrogance. As Earth's fleets prepared to launch, the message was clear: humanity would not negotiate, they would not bow. The Empire had started this war, but humanity would finish it. In the command center of Earth's most fortified military base, the human fleet commander stood before a vast holographic display of the galaxy. The commander, a figure of calm resolve, had seen more battles than most could imagine. Years of service had hardened them, sharpening their instincts and teaching them the harsh realities of war. This was not the first time humanity had been threatened, but the stakes had never been this high. With full authority granted by Earth's leadership, the commander's mission was clear: retaliate with such force that the Empire would never dare to threaten humanity again. Across the planet, the call to arms reverberated through every level of society. Factories that once produced goods for civilian life were rapidly retooled for war. Workers labored around the clock, churning out weapons and munitions. Engineers refined the final designs of cutting-edge ships and drones that had, until now, been classified projects. Within days, Earth's military infrastructure was fully mobilized. The speed and efficiency of this transformation were astonishing, even to those who had doubted humanity's ability to respond so quickly. Decades of preparation, of stockpiling resources and perfecting strategies, now bore fruit. The fleet assembled above Earth was a sight to behold, a formidable armada of ships, each bristling with weaponry far beyond what the Empire had anticipated. Sleek destroyers, heavily armored battleships, and carrier vessels housing swarms of unmanned drones filled the void. But it was not just the size of the fleet that mattered, it was the technology that powered it. Humanity had spent years perfecting systems that would give them the edge in any conflict. Artificial intelligence managed battle strategies in real time, calculating thousands of possible outcomes in mere seconds. The latest generation of kinetic weapons, capable of delivering massive destruction without the need for traditional explosives, were ready to be deployed. The first counterstrike was planned with surgical precision. Intelligence reports identified a key Imperial fleet stationed in a sector close to Haven. The Empire had grown complacent, believing their presence there would be unchallenged. The human commander selected this fleet as the first target, intending to send a message that Earth would not be intimidated. As the human ships engaged their warp drives, the void of space folded around them, propelling them toward their unsuspecting prey. The Imperial fleet, numbering in the dozens, was caught entirely off guard. Their sensors detected the incoming human ships too late. The first volley of kinetic bombardments slammed into the Imperial ships, bypassing their shields and tearing through hulls with devastating force. Explosions rippled through the fleet as ship after ship was obliterated before they could even mount a defense. The Empire had never faced such overwhelming brutality. What little resistance they managed was quickly neutralized by electromagnetic pulse weapons that disabled their systems, leaving them adrift and helpless. Within minutes, the Imperial fleet was decimated. What had been an imposing force was now nothing more than debris scattered across the stars. The few Imperial ships that managed to escape sent frantic distress signals, but there was no one left to respond. The humans had struck with a level of precision and ruthlessness that the Empire had never expected, and the results were catastrophic. Word of the attack spread rapidly through the Imperial ranks, sowing panic and confusion. The Empire, which had always prided itself on its invincibility, was suddenly faced with the stark reality that they had vastly underestimated their enemy. The human commander, aboard their flagship, watched the battle unfold with a steady gaze. This was not a victory to be celebrated, it was a necessary step in a larger war. The commander knew that this was only the beginning. The Empire would not be defeated in a single battle, but this strike had shattered their aura of invincibility. Reports from the surviving Imperial ships indicated a level of fear and disarray that was unprecedented. The Empire's leaders, who had once been so confident in their superiority, were now scrambling to reassess their strategies. Back on Earth, the news of the counterattack spread quickly, lifting the spirits of a population still reeling from the loss of Haven. For the first time since the war had begun, there was a sense of hope. Humanity had not only defended itself but had struck back with a force that no one had expected. The human commander became a symbol of Earth's resolve, a figure who embodied the determination to protect their homeworld at any cost. Under their leadership, humanity was no longer just another species in the galaxy. They were a force to be reckoned with. In the days that followed, the Empire's shock only deepened. Their analysts struggled to comprehend how a species they had considered inferior could unleash such devastation. The losses were staggering, and the psychological impact even greater. The human commander's tactics were studied and debated within the highest echelons of the Imperial Command, but there was no consensus on how to counter them. Every scenario they ran, every simulation they tested, ended in the same result: overwhelming human victory. As the Empire grappled with the new reality, the human commander prepared for the next phase of the war. There would be no rest, no reprieve. The Empire had chosen this path, and humanity would see it through to the end. The message was clear: Earth would not negotiate, and those who dared to threaten it would be met with annihilation. The remnants of the once proud Imperial fleet limped back to the nearest secure outpost, their numbers decimated and their morale shattered. The survivors bore the weight of a defeat that was as humiliating as it was unexpected. Commanders who had once spoken with arrogance now conferred in hushed, panicked tones, struggling to comprehend the scale of their losses. The Empire had faced setbacks before, but never anything like this. The sheer brutality of the human counterattack had left them reeling, and the cracks in their confidence began to show. As word of the defeat spread through the ranks, the sense of invincibility that had long defined the Empire began to erode. Soldiers and officers alike whispered of the unstoppable human forces, of the relentless commander who seemed to predict their every move. Fear took root, growing like a shadow over the Empire's once unshakable resolve. In the halls of power, the Imperial leadership found themselves at a crossroads, their unity fractured by conflicting views on how to proceed. The Council, which had once spoken with one voice, was now divided. On one side were those who believed that the path of diplomacy was still viable, that some form of negotiation could salvage their position. They argued that the humans, despite their initial ferocity, might be reasoned with before the conflict escalated further. On the other side were the hardliners, those who saw the only option as total war. They demanded a full-scale mobilization of the Empire's remaining forces, convinced that overwhelming force was the only way to crush the human threat once and for all. The debate grew heated, with accusations and doubts flaring up, further weakening their already fragile unity. Amidst this turmoil, the human commander continued their campaign with ruthless efficiency. Recognizing the psychological toll the defeat had taken on the Empire, they initiated a new phase of warfare, one that targeted not just the body, but the mind. Propaganda broadcasts infiltrated Imperial communication channels, spreading messages designed to sow doubt and fear. Images of the Empire's shattered fleets were paired with warnings of the futility of resistance. Every message was calculated, every strike planned to demoralize and disorient. It wasn't just about winning battles anymore, it was about breaking the Empire's spirit. These tactics began to take their toll. Imperial soldiers found themselves questioning their leaders, wondering if the war was winnable at all. Desertions increased, and reports of insubordination became more frequent. Even those who remained loyal were haunted by the specter of defeat, their confidence eroded by the relentless psychological assault. The human commander's strategy was working, the Empire was beginning to crumble from within. Desperation drove the Empire to launch a counteroffensive, a last-ditch effort to reclaim their lost honor and territory. They threw everything they had into the attack, hoping to overwhelm the human forces through sheer numbers and brute force. But the humans were ready. The human commander, anticipating such a move, had prepared their forces to counter every tactic the Empire deployed. Traps were laid, ambushes sprung, and the Empire's fleets found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Each engagement ended in disaster for the Empire. Ships were lost by the dozen, entire battalions wiped out before they could even engage the enemy. The Empire's desperation only served to deepen their losses, as hasty decisions led to catastrophic outcomes. What was meant to be a reclamation became a massacre, further demoralizing the already beleaguered Imperial forces. Casualties mounted on both sides, but while the Empire's losses drove them deeper into despair, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. Every fallen soldier, every destroyed ship, was seen as a sacrifice for the greater good, a step toward securing Earth's future. The human commander embodied this resolve, leading their forces with a determination that bordered on the fanatical. They understood that this war was not just about survival, but about sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity would not be conquered, and any attempt to do so would be met with annihilation. As the Empire's forces dwindled, so too did their hopes of victory. The internal conflicts that had plagued their leadership now seemed trivial in the face of the annihilation they faced. The few remaining leaders who had advocated for diplomacy were now silenced by the harsh reality that the time for talk had long passed. Those who had called for total war were forced to confront the bitter truth. They had underestimated their enemy, and now they were paying the price. The Empire, once the unchallenged ruler of vast swaths of the galaxy, was now a shadow of its former self. Their fleets were shattered, their territories shrinking with each passing day. And all the while, the human commander pressed on, relentless in their pursuit of total victory. The war had taken a toll on humanity as well, but with every battle won, their resolve was steeled further. This was their war to win, and they would see it through to the bitter end. In the heart of the Empire, the realization set in. They were not just fighting to win, they were fighting to survive. But as the walls closed in and their options dwindled, even survival seemed like a distant hope. The Empire had made a fatal error in underestimating humanity, and now, they were paying the ultimate price. Both sides knew that the next engagement would be the one to decide the fate of the galaxy. The Empire, battered and desperate, called upon every remaining ship and soldier. They pulled fleets from distant outposts, conscripted civilians into service, and emptied their reserves in a final, all-or-nothing bid to reclaim their lost dominance. Every resource was funneled into this effort, every ship armed to the teeth. The sense of impending doom was palpable, but with it came a grim determination. This would be their last stand, and they would fight with everything they had. On Earth, preparations were equally intense. The human commander, aware of the stakes, reviewed every detail with meticulous care. The plan they devised was bold, hinging on a high-risk maneuver that could bring an end to the war in one decisive strike. The commander knew that the Empire, though weakened, still possessed a formidable fleet. To win, they would need to exploit every weakness, anticipate every move. The strategy involved drawing the Empire into a carefully orchestrated trap, a move so audacious that failure would mean not just defeat, but the end of humanity itself. The battle was set to take place in a sector of space where the gravitational pull of a dying star created a hazardous environment. The Empire, desperate for victory, took the bait, believing they had the humans cornered. The human fleet, smaller but more agile, moved into position. The commander's plan relied on the precision of their forces and the element of surprise. They had hidden ships in the gravitational shadows of nearby planets, ready to strike at the opportune moment. The opening salvo was brutal. The Empire unleashed a barrage of firepower, determined to crush the human forces before they could fully deploy. Explosions lit up the void, ships were torn apart, and the battlefield became a maelstrom of destruction. But the human commander remained unshaken. Every move the Empire made had been anticipated. As the Empire's ships advanced, the hidden human fleet sprang into action, flanking the Imperial forces and cutting off their escape routes. The trap was sprung. Chaos reigned as the battle intensified. The Empire's vast numbers clashed with the human fleet's superior tactics and technology. Advanced AI systems guided human ships through the most dangerous maneuvers, allowing them to dodge enemy fire and strike with pinpoint accuracy. Kinetic weapons and electromagnetic pulses wreaked havoc on the Empire's ships, disabling their systems and leaving them vulnerable to follow-up attacks. The scale of the conflict was immense, with thousands of ships engaged in a deadly dance, each side vying for control of the battlefield. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the tide was turning. The human commander's strategy was paying off. The Empire, despite its numbers, struggled to adapt to the rapid, coordinated strikes of the human fleet. Imperial ships began to falter, their formations breaking under the relentless assault. The gravitational forces of the dying star added to the chaos, pulling damaged ships into its deadly embrace. The human commander exploited every advantage, pressing the attack and forcing the Empire into increasingly desperate positions. The Empire's command structure, already strained, began to collapse under the pressure. Orders were delayed, communications disrupted, and coordination broke down. Some Imperial commanders, seeing the battle turning against them, attempted to retreat, only to find their paths blocked by human forces. Panic set in as more and more ships were lost, the once proud Imperial fleet reduced to scattered pockets of resistance. The human commander, sensing victory was within reach, ordered the final phase of the plan. In a bold move, the human fleet concentrated its firepower on the Empire's central command ship. This vessel, the heart of the Imperial fleet, was heavily defended and carried the Empire's highest-ranking officers. The Empire, realizing the danger, threw everything they had into protecting it. But the human commander was relentless. Coordinated attacks overwhelmed the defenses, and one by one, the protective ships were destroyed. Finally, a well-placed kinetic strike breached the command ship's hull, triggering a catastrophic explosion that sent shockwaves through the battlefield. With the destruction of their command ship, the Empire's forces were thrown into disarray. Leaderless and demoralized, the remaining ships either surrendered or were hunted down by the relentless human fleet. The battle, which had begun with such ferocity, was now a rout. The Empire's central fleet, the last bastion of their military might, was decimated. The humans had achieved a decisive victory, one that would echo throughout the galaxy. As the last of the Imperial ships were destroyed or captured, the battlefield fell silent. The human commander surveyed the wreckage, knowing that they had not just won a battle, but had secured the future of humanity. The war was over. The Empire, once the most powerful force in the galaxy, was broken. The commander's bold strategy had paid off, delivering a blow from which the Empire would never recover. In the aftermath, the galaxy would come to recognize humanity not just as a survivor, but as a dominant force. The Empire's collapse signaled the end of an era and the beginning of a new one, an era where Earth stood unchallenged, a testament to the power of human determination and ingenuity. The decisive battle had been fought and won, and the message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. The remnants of the Empire, their once formidable forces reduced to scattered pockets of resistance, finally recognized the futility of further conflict. The war that had begun with such arrogance on their part had ended in catastrophic defeat. The surviving Imperial leaders, now isolated and desperate, sent out a request for peace. But the terms of this surrender would not be negotiated. They would be dictated by Earth alone. The days of the Empire's dominance were over, and they knew it. What remained was a shell of their former glory, humbled by the relentless force that was humanity. The human commander, who had orchestrated the Empire's downfall, stood at the forefront of this new era. Addressing the galactic community, the commander's message was clear and unyielding: Earth would not tolerate aggression, nor would it entertain negotiations with those who sought to destroy it. The commander's words, broadcast across the galaxy, left no room for misinterpretation. Humanity had proven its strength, and any future threat would be met with the same decisive and merciless response. The galaxy was on notice. Earth was a power to be respected, not challenged. As the dust of war settled, there was time for reflection. The galaxy began to understand that beneath humanity's civilized exterior lay a capacity for both unparalleled kindness and devastating wrath. The Empire, in its hubris, had believed it could manipulate or intimidate Earth into submission. Instead, it had provoked a response so overwhelming that it shattered their centuries-old dominion. This war had revealed a side of humanity that few had imagined, a species that, when pushed, would annihilate any threat without hesitation. The human commander, now a figure of legend, returned to Earth, where they were celebrated as a hero. But with the admiration came a certain fear. The ruthlessness displayed in the war was not easily forgotten, even by those who had benefited from it. The commander had ensured Earth's survival and secured its place as a dominant force in the galaxy, but at a cost. The war had shown the lengths to which humanity would go to protect itself, and it left the galaxy questioning what the future would hold with such a power now in control. The legacy of the war was profound. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted irreversibly. Once, the Empire had been the unquestioned ruler, its will imposed upon countless worlds. Now, humanity stood at the center of the galactic stage, its might recognized and feared. The other species, who had once viewed Earth with either indifference or contempt, now regarded it with a mix of respect and wariness. Earth had not just survived the Empire's assault, it had emerged stronger, more united, and more determined than ever. But as humanity looked to the future, there were questions that lingered. What kind of power would Earth become? Would the same ruthlessness that had secured victory now shape its interactions with the rest of the galaxy? The human commander, though victorious, carried the weight of these questions. They knew that the war had changed more than just the political landscape, it had changed humanity itself. The scars of battle ran deep, and the lessons learned would not be easily forgotten. As the commander stood on the surface of Earth, looking up at the stars, they contemplated the path that lay ahead. The galaxy was vast, filled with both potential allies and potential threats. The commander knew that humanity's future would be defined by how it wielded its newfound power. Would Earth become a beacon of peace, guiding the galaxy toward a more just and stable future? Or would it become a force of domination, imposing its will as the Empire once had? The war had shown that when pushed, humanity could unleash a fury that few could withstand. But it had also shown that this fury was tempered by a deep-seated desire to protect, to ensure the survival of the human race at all costs. The commander reflected on the balance between these two aspects of humanity, the capacity for destruction, and the capacity for compassion. The future of the galaxy would depend on which of these traits came to define humanity's role in the cosmos. As the story drew to a close, one truth remained clear: humanity had proven that it would not negotiate with those who sought to destroy it. The message had been sent, and the galaxy had listened. Earth's might was undeniable, and any who threatened it would be met with the same unrelenting force that had brought the Empire to its knees. The final thought lingered like a shadow: humanity had chosen survival over diplomacy, and in doing so, had carved out a place in the galaxy where no one would dare challenge them again. The future was uncertain, but one thing was certain: those who underestimated Earth did so at their peril.